I want to acknowledge that it is Transgender History Month. So in honor of that, I have several show and tell items. This is from 1910, Magnus Hirschfeld's The Transvestites, which was that was the term back then for transgender people, because this is pre-surgical times when you could do gender confirmation surgery. So the way you expressed your gender was just through clothing. So everyone was called a transvestite who was transgender. Amazing book from 1910. It was written in German. This is a very recent English translation, which is awesome. And then we have a zine on Utah's trans history. So this goes back to pre-colonial times with Two-Spirit folks on through to the 1940s. Really great zine. And then on to our topic of being gay at BYU. We'll start with Carolyn Pearson's Goodbye, I Love You. She was an LDS woman student at BYU in the 70s who married a gay man. And the first half of this all takes place on campus. And then they moved to San Francisco so that he could come out. He contracted AIDS and he died in her arms in their living room. This changed, in my opinion, this is the most important book in the history of homosexuality and Mormonism. Prior to this, it was this brick wall of fear and hatred and bigotry. And she said, we need to change the dialogue around this. And she opened it up for people to start really talking about people's real lives and the pain that the church had been causing. So that's the first one. This is an anthology called Multiply and Replenish, published by Signature Books, but it does have my essay in it in the center. So this is from 1994. This is called The Abominable and Detestable Crime Against Nature, A Brief History of Homosexuality and Mormonism from 1840 to 1980. So this was the very first publication about queer Mormon history. Peculiar People then came out, and this talks about also being queer and Mormon, and some of the essays do focus on BYU. And then we have D. Michael Quinn's autobiography that just came out called Chosen Path. He was the professor of history at BYU in the 70s, 80s, who was eventually excommunicated. And then he came out after he was excommunicated. He was excommunicated for talking openly about polygamy that had happened after the 1890 manifesto, because the church said, oh, we stopped polygamy, but they hadn't. and he kind of revealed that fact, and he got into a lot of trouble about it. And then, this is my copy of the 1976 Boyd K. Packer talk at General Conference called To the One. Oh, that's not at General Conference. That's a different one. This is called To the One, and this was at BYU. It was a multi-stake fireside that he gave in 1976. You might have been there.
I was there.
You were there.
I was there.
So he goes on, it's called To the One, because he says, in a crowd of 100, there'll be one of these people. He talks about this one person, and he goes on and on about it, but he doesn't really say what he's talking about until finally he says, now, I hate talking about it, because if you talk about it, you will create it. And then he says, I will use the word once, homosexual. And so, yeah. Packer's nasty talk. And then I have from my archives all the BYU interdepartmental memos from the 1970s. So a nice big thick stack of them where they're talking about gay people and homosexuality and what to do about it. And like, for example, this top one here, this is from this is 1980, but it's from Jeffrey Holland, who's one of the Mormon apostles now, but he was just became the president of BYU. And this memo, hold on. This memo he sent to Rolf Kerr, who was the head of the church educational system. And Holland says to him, Elder Burton just called. He's been contacted by Bishop John Bennett of Albuquerque Fifth Ward. Bennett had a young man by the name of blank who confesses to being a homosexual. Brother Blank is apparently trying to put his life in order. And in confessing, he's identified 4 male BYU students, all returned missionaries, and they are, and he lists their names and addresses, and then says this has both 14 stake president and student life implications. Proceed with both lines and let me know the facts. Obviously, this should go quietly and discreetly. So this is part of the surveillance apparatus that they had set up about interrogating people, getting names of others, passing them on to the church, or the church getting names, passing them on to BYU. Things like that. So anyway, so these will be, you can hang out here afterwards and kind of flip through these. Don't take anything, please. You can take a zine. But all right. I'm back. Did you miss me?
We're both so short, we can't get comfortable on the sofa.
Oh, no.
I need a pillow.
I thought it would be super comfy.
Yeah, it is comfy.
Okay.
Fine for you.
It is.
No, that's why I got this chair. Like, that did not work for me.
No, okay, you're good. And
So,
I just have to keep pushing towards the back.
um,
Slither on out.
tell us who you are.
Okay. I'm Loreen Major, and I was a student at BYU Hawaii, which was Church College of Hawaii, in 1974 to 75, and then I came to BYU from 75 to 79,
Studying.
studying educational psychology, and with a minor in elementary ed. It's special ed, but that's what they called it then.
Okay.
I'm Dale Miller, and I was at BYU in 73 and 74. And she graduated, and you went 4 years and graduated.
Mhm.
I realized after 2 years, I need to get the hell out of here. But I came in so naive that I just didn't realize what I was getting into, but it kind of all worked out okay. But Connell was telling me this week that there was a purge starting in 75.
It started January of 1975. They started purging students.
We were hearing about it in the dance department. And I mean, the dancers. People were getting scared, and people who thought that, okay, I have all these friends. Who's going to get called in and who's going to turn on me? Who's going to turn me in? Wasn't a good feeling. And so I left and finally graduated from Washington State. But the time I spent at BYU was quite an adventure.
So how did you get to BYU? Because I know you have an interesting backstory.
Well,
Where are you from and all that?
oh, I'm from a little town called Winnie, which is on the coast, the Gulf Coast of Southeast Texas. And I grew up in a very, very conservative Southern Baptist home.
Sorry.
Huh?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to follow that with I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Yeah. And it was tough. And I wasn't the butcher's kid in school, so I got bullied and stuff. But my backstory of how I got to BYU, the Provo, is in 1968. I remember later, I was in this piano competition, and one of the judges invited me to come and study with him, and he invited 5 guys from across the country. I was summer junior in high school, and he invited 5 kids to come and study with him all summer. And of course, my mom pushed me into it, and I said yes. 5 young guys, unsupervised, by a pianist who pianist sounds a lot like another obsession. And so my mom pushed me. I mean, there was articles in the paper, and there was a party in this little town of Winnie, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I got to Madison, Wisconsin. I was the first one, and it was just weird. There's something going on. I mean, I was studying, but he ended up being a pedophile, and he had been writing about me, because I was the first one, in his diary. And I went, oh no, this isn't okay. I knew I was gay.
How old were you?
I was 16.
Okay.
16, I'm sorry. I knew I was gay, but being abused and molested by that's a big difference. Those two don't. Well, my mom wouldn't let me come home. That was like 5 days there, and I got to come home, and she forbid it. And so I ended up going home anyway. But before I left, I took pictures of his diary of pages where he talked about molesting me in my sleep. I say all that to say this. That summer, my parents, after they got the pictures developed, came home with their attorney. My mom and dad sat down, and they said, this will never be discussed. You're never to tell anyone. And just forget it. Well, I didn't, and it left a bad taste in my mouth. Not literally, but the one thing that it did, and the reason my BYU journey started there, was because I got to do pretty much what I wanted to do in my senior year in high school. My mom was perfectly happy if I got out of town, because she was so afraid I was going to slip up and tell somebody, because really and truly nobody knew except the 4 of us.
So she was really concerned about how people.
Oh, our family.
Your family image was more important than what really happened to you.
Oh, major.
Okay.
But anyway, in 1972, after being a go-go boy, or what we call dip dancers now, at a popular drag bar in Houston, and of course drugs, all night partying, all that came along. And after a month of that, in the summer of 72, I went, I gotta get out of here. I can't do this. So I was going to North Texas at the time, and I said, I'm just gonna go get away from these people. And so I got an apartment, and within a few days, 2 Mormon missionaries knocked on my door. And I went, oh, one of them so cute. I didn't know anything about Mormons. I certainly didn't know anything about Brigham Young University, and I definitely didn't know anything about Provo, Utah. But long story short, I joined the church. They weren't there much in July, and the next January, I was enrolling at BYU.
In what?
I was in the ballet, and there's modern dance and ballet, but they're not really departments, but they really kind of are. But the thing about going to BYU at the time was the way life was, especially in a small Southern Baptist town in East Texas, it really wasn't much different. I mean, the rules were much different. I mean, yeah, coffee, yeah, a little alcohol here and there. But it really wasn't. And so when I came to BYU, it was easy for me to assimilate into ballet and modern and the theater department and things, because they wouldn't have had departments if they didn't have guys. And at the time,
If they didn't have
guys.
male dancers.
Male dancers, and there weren't very many, and most of us were. But it wasn't that different. BYU wasn't that different from home. And so it was easy to get into it. And so that's how I ended up in Provo, Utah.
How did you end up in Provo, Utah?
Oh, my story is not nearly as exciting as that. Wow. I was a very good little Mormon girl
From,
Glendale, California, Montrose, but Glendale is the bigger town. And my
Southern Cal.
Southern California,
Okay.
yeah, near Pasadena
Oh,
and
okay.
Burbank, kind of in between those two.
So you were a surfer chick.
No.
You're a valley girl.
Yeah, more like a valley girl, but I wasn't. I was just a good little Mormon girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, really, very, very vanilla. And so I just always thought that I would go to BYU. My mother got a wild hair and moved us to Hawaii the summer between my junior and senior year. So I ended up graduating from high school in Hawaii and then staying for a year and going to Church College of Hawaii, which is now BYU Hawaii. And in the fun days before they had all the rules that, well, just we used to just have the run of the Polynesian Cultural Center and with our friends, and it was very fun. It was a great year. And kind of that first year of college is where I kind of came into my own, not having anything to do with being gay, but just I became not under my mother's thumb, but you know, a person of myself. So and then after I was there for a year, all my friends were going to BYU, so I transferred too and said goodbye to the beach, and that's how I got to BYU.
Okay.
Okay, so
And where did you live when you got to campus and stuff?
I lived like you want the name of the I lived in
No.
the Monte Vista apartments
Okay.
across from that Reams store that looked like a turtle. Do you remember that?
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I lived there, and then I lived in some other apartments.
But was it in one of the BYU pods, the family pods that?
No, it's just an apartment. I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
there were 4 girls in an apartment, and
You didn't have
yeah,
a
I didn't live.
student mom and student dad and
No.
student brothers and sisters?
No, we had families within the ward,
But not.
But-
at home.
but not, no, this wasn't a dorm. I lived in the dorms in Hawaii, which was, yeah, a little different, but
Did you live in the dorms?
It wasn't a dorm, it was pods, I guess, call it now. But yeah, my first day moving in,
On campus or off campus?
well, it was right next door to the missionary training center. Would that be on campus? I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
But we had a student dad, student mom, student brothers, and student sisters in the little pod. And if within one day, I went, I gotta get the hell out of here. This is not gonna work. And when I started BYU, and by the end of that first term, I managed to get rid of all the things that were thrust upon a brand new LDS convert and a brand new student.
What kind of things?
What kind of
What
things?
kind of things were you able to?
Well, I knew right away that had to get somewhere where the church couldn't find me, the school couldn't find me. And that's not as easy as you think. It's important. And so I think I just escaped during the night of just being there 3 or 4 months, 3 or 4 weeks, and moved to Springville, right south. I had a car, so it was only 10 miles. I thought this is gonna work. And so I got out of that pod structure, and then by the end of the term, I had kind of gotten away from the religion, period, and managed to end up living in a house out by Utah Lake with 5 other gay guys, and I was never found, but I didn't stay there much longer because of what was happening in the school and what the possibilities were. That's your question?
Yes, that does. Well, when did you realize you were gay? Oh, and let's talk about the word gay,
okay,
because it wasn't lesbian, right?
right. Yeah,
You were,
I don't even think it was gay. when I first put a name to it. It was homosexual.
Okay.
So I was thinking about this question, and I think I knew from the time I was probably in about sixth grade that I liked women. And for me, it was kind of it wasn't my girlfriends. It was older women. It was my teachers or my, people, women in the ward or the mothers of my friends. But I wanted to be close to them and I wanted them to hug me, and not anything sexual, but and I remember just being so in love with my sixth grade teacher, sixth grade Spanish teacher, and writing about her in my diary, but I think I realized then, that's when I realized something's going on here, but I didn't have a word for it. And it wasn't until I read the lovely book, Miracle of Forgiveness.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Uh,
Yeah. But that I heard the word homosexuality. And then I was living in Hawaii, and in Hawaii, I was 18. I was 18. And in Hawaii, that's like it's of age.
yes.
So I could go to the library and go in the locked section for adults. And that's where they had books on homosexuality. So I checked out a couple of books, and I was actually living with some people there, my mutual teacher and her husband and his mother. Anyway, and I would go down the road, and there was a little cemetery down in the middle of all these houses, and I would sit in the cemetery and read about that, and I was like,
Wow.
so that's how I figured that out. But I didn't act on it for I guess it was probably 2 years later. But yeah, then I was looking at the way I was feeling from different eyes. Yeah. So,
And the word lesbian.
oh my gosh, I can remember I never used the word lesbian, and I had already met my wife. That I met her in 1993, and we then were married in 2013. So but I remember we didn't like that word. It just felt so abrasive. So we used the word gay for a long time. I'm comfortable with it now, but yeah, that was a tough one for me. I did not, I don't know. It wasn't until I met Arlene, my wife, who passed away 8 years ago. It wasn't until I met her that I fully embraced being gay. So,
Okay.
yeah. Being lesbian.
Were-
Shall we say?
You were kind of out on campus, Dale?
Well, not in the beginning. In the very beginning, I met, of course, there were women and the ballet department, and then there were modern dance women. And I was the new kid. Okay, most of the students had started in September. And so I was coming in with a new term after Christmas, and so I was a new kid. And so people were curious about, okay. And I befriended her the year before, this February before, the fall before, I sort of became friends with the homecoming queen. And that was kind of a status thing, and it helped my friends. I mean, I know I wasn't that butch, but at the same time, I was really good friends with the homecoming queen, and that was something, considering I just come from South Texas. big school, homecoming queen, yay. And she kind of helped me. She ended up introducing me to the director of Young Ambassadors, and they needed to fill a male slot.
Who are the young ambassadors?
Young Ambassadors at BYU.
What is, for those who don't know?
Oh, Young Ambassadors is a song and dance group that tours nationally and around the world, I think. And they needed a guy to do a Northern California. So 6 weeks after I enrolled at BYU, less than a year after I joined the church, I was Young Ambassador, and we went on tour in Northern California, 2 days at the Oakland Temple in that area, and I ended up getting away from them and being in San Francisco by myself because I wasn't going to ruin my stay. Yes, ma'am.
There is a question in the Zoom chat about the young ambassadors. So I'm gonna read it out loud since we're on it.
Okay.
Were you treated better or the same while on the young ambassadors team, since some of them were also, quote, gay in hiding?
Well, I didn't know. There were 4 couples. I think, yeah, there were 4 couples, and I didn't really have time to get close to any of them, so I don't know. Now, I did get close to some dancers, 1 in particular, 2 actually, and but I didn't know then. But after that tour was over, I went, oh no, I'm not doing this. No. And so, but after that, I quit, and toward the end of that term, the winter term, I was realizing, okay, I can get away from these people. I can get away from all the rules and stuff, and I can pretty much live my own life, the life I want to live. And the thing is, back then, it wasn't like it is now, where you have to have a temple recommended for whatever to enroll in school. And I started dating one of the other dancers, modern dancers, and we started coming to Salt Lake to get away from that. Now, we did have a problem because my car had a BYU sticker, and that means that you could not park next to the sun. You had to park way away.
The gay bar.
The gay bar. And we came into Salt Lake to a repertory dance theater concert. This is toward the end of that term, and we got to go, well, we were dancers from BYU, so of course we got to go backstage and meet the other dancers. And I saw this very tall, skinny male dancer in RDT, and I went, oh my God. Oh, I'm going to lose my religion over this. But anyway, so my friend Vance, he and I kind of dated for a little bit, and we left the concert and went to the Sun. And lo and behold,
You parked miles
blocks
away.
Yeah. I don't even remember where, but it was a long way, and there wasn't an Uber to call. But and so we were in this gay bar, and lo and behold, Mansell Centers, I will never forget him. He walked in, and I was just in love because I'd already started lusting over him backstage. And so we kind of hit it off. Then I ended up going home with him. My friend Vance ended up going home with somebody else. And it was a good first introduction to gay life in Salt Lake City. And I ended up being, I guess, a friends with benefit with Mansell off and on for the better part of the year. But it was always a problem because I couldn't park my car near the sunfront.
And how did you know not to park near the sun?
Oh, Vance,
Okay.
one of the other dancers, he said, oh, no, you can't do this.
Because
I had a BYU parking sticker, and they weren't little. They were like this big in your rearview mirror. And so you had to park, and there weren't parking garages.
right.
And
So just to fill people in, BYU security had the permission from the university. This was part of their
Yes.
systematic oppression of gay people. They had permission to go to gay bars in the Salt Lake area, because there were a couple or
Yeah, those Radio City.
yeah, and look at whoever had a BYU parking sticker, write down their license plate number and turn that in. And then that would start this process of, confession and getting more names to turn in for other folks. So
And then there was the aversion.
that and the gay community knew that was happening, right?
Oh, yeah,
And
definitely.
so
So we
people had
knew
to
to
be
hide
really careful.
our vehicle. And so by that time, I was kind of coming to Salt Lake a lot because Manziel didn't have a car, he was a dancer. And so I came to Salt Lake, and that's kind of where I reintroduced myself to, well, I introduced myself to gay life in Salt Lake City. Which there was also gay life in Provo, although a little harder to come by, but I still have friends. And so that's how I came from at the very beginning of joining the church in July, enrolling in January, not even a member of the church for a year. And then my transition from trying to be very straight or just not talking about it, I know I wasn't. And by the end of that term, I was pretty entrenched in gay life in Salt Lake. And I could put the Mormon behind me, even though I was still enrolled.
Loreen, how about you? Trips up to Salt Lake to
Never. I had no idea. I was so naive, I think. I don't know. I just had my girlfriend and we just were together and we were kind of in hiding, and I had no idea there were any other gay people around.
So
No
you
clue.
had no social network of other.
No social network. nothing.
And you weren't in PE? Sorry, that was
It-
You didn't
it's
go to softball games?
me. I am not your typical lesbian. I was not in PE unless I had to be. There were a couple of classes I had to take, but I wasn't there,
Same, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah, wasn't there by choice. So no. No, I had no clue. No clue there was anywhere. It was just me and the girl. I don't want to say her name because yeah. Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
And you eventually came to where you confessed.
Yeah, so my girlfriend and I were, we got together that was my third year of college, and it took me 5 years to get through. So we were together for, I guess, then almost 6 years. So even after I graduated, and just, hiding, sharing a bedroom, trying to be quiet. Oh my gosh. Roommates, that were suspicious and were trying to catch us so they could turn us in. It's like I don't know if they thought they got an award or a prize if they turned in a gay person.
Celestial brownie points.
Yeah, there you go. But we had this one roommate that was so after us. And
Because she suspected?
yeah, she suspected, and she just thought she was, I don't know, so holier than thou, I guess. But she actually, she was very pretty and very, she was, no,
Looking for an MRS?
yes, but I mean, she was just, you would look at her, she wasn't the typical little dowdy Mormon girl. She was voluptuous and wore kind of skimpy clothes, but she thought she was very holy. And so she would go out, she would leave, and then try and come back in that house and catch us. Oh, my gosh. And so,
He sounds like a closet case to me.
well, I mean, this is actually very sad, but she and a boy, she dated all kinds of boys, but they were in a small airplane crash and while she was living with us and died. They both died. But we were chased down by a teacher there at BYU, who I think was maybe the stake president when he first talked to us, but he kept re-entering our lives. And I don't know, I guess we shouldn't say names. No.
The two names I said, both of them have passed away.
Yeah, this person has passed away too. I mean, the teacher, but I'm not saying anything bad about him, except that he was, I guess, doing his duty. His name was Paul Poli.
Oh.
And do you know? Yeah.
Oh.
And actually, I kind of wondered if he might be gay, but anyway. So he kept re-entering our lives and kind of trying to, like, I know, ensnare us in a way, just like he'd call us in and question us. Well, oh no, wait, nothing's going on. So, but that was, I went in and confessed to my bishop after I had graduated from college, because I did know that I would get kicked out of school if I said anything. So it was a big secret. And it still was. And it wasn't until I was a year out of school and I was still living down there and I was traveling up to Sandy to teach school. And I went into my bishop and confessed. And of course, he wanted me to tell who the person was. And I wouldn't tell, but anybody would know because we were together constantly. And so he said, he actually was a very nice man, and I don't remember his name, that our bishop, but he said, I'm going to have to, turn this into the stake president, who wasn't Paul Poli at the.
Would
our
they have
stake
taken a
member.
degree away from you?
No, they can't do that. I don't think
No, they did.
they did.
Oh, yeah.
Take people's degrees and
Well, it's not, I don't think they took degrees away. They would kick you out of school and not let you transfer your credit.
Right.
Still
And it was
going.
as if you
was
never
done.
went.
But I was done with school. I mean, I had graduated, so
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
I had my degree.
Why did you confess to the bishop?
So I confessed that I was involved with another girl.
But why?
Why? Oh, why did I do it? Because I had the guilt. I felt so guilty. I was consumed with guilt the whole time. And so I just felt like my relationship with this girl, we were girls, was falling apart. And so I was like, well, I might as well, it's going to be over. So I'm going to go confess. And so anyway, so the bishop did whatever they do, and it went up the chain of command. And the bishop called me in and said, we are going to have you go through some counseling to try to help you, I don't know, get rid of your feelings. I don't remember what he said, something like that. So I went out on it, the area out on 9th, I think it's 9th East on the far side of campus. And there were some little homes there. And I went to one that I don't know if they had all been turned into, I think BYU owned them all. But they had, I guess this one was set up as for counseling. So I went in there one evening and there was a man waiting for me in there, and there wasn't anybody else anywhere that I could see. And it's a house. So you go in and it was very empty. And there was like a table with a chair, where somebody could be like the reception person, but it was in the evening, so there wasn't anybody there. And the guy was just waiting for me. He was I don't know, older to me, probably in his 50s, maybe. And late 40s, 50s, probably 50s. And it was just silent, but there were different rooms. So he takes me into, you go past, there's a kitchen area because it's a house. And we go into a room that's like a bedroom, would have been a bedroom in the house. And he has a table set up with a carousel slides. Yeah, those slides. And they come in the carousel, and they go around. So he had that set up and a screen. And then he had a chair for me. And then I think he I'm sure he had a chair at the back for him. But he said, he didn't, like, it was not a counseling session. He just, he just jumped right into, I'm going to show you some slides
Porn.
yeah, and it wasn't even porn. I mean, it was naked women, but it wasn't erotica. It wasn't posed women. It wasn't sexy. It was just naked women. And because I don't think they knew where to get that stuff, really. Call over in the ward and see if anybody has any.
Lesbian porn.
Yeah. So it was just,
No.
it wasn't anything even very exciting. And I mean,
It probably was for that guy though.
yeah.
All the way to it.
He was behind me, so I don't know what he was doing. But so he had the clicker, and so he would show me several slides. He showed me quite a few slides at first, and he just said, I want you to look at these. And then so I did.
No problem.
Yeah. And then he brought out, he had a bucket and a bottle of syrup of Epcat.
Yes.
And said, now that you've seen those, I want you to, drink some of this, and then it's going to make you vomit, and you're gonna do it in the bucket, and and I'm like, what? But I'm not even to this day, it's hard for me to kick back to, and so I kind of did what I was told. And it was awful, because throwing up is, to me, the worst thing. I'll do anything to not throw up.
I am such a pukophobe. I have not thrown up since July of 1987. Seriously. And I remember every time, since I was like 3, I remember every time I've thrown up, and I'm just like, I hate it.
I hated it as a kid.
But guys had electrodes.
You're right. So it's not as bad, but it's kind of like, what did they think? Like, well, what do we do to a woman? Is it, did you get the nipples? I don't know.
Right.
So,
So with men,
yeah.
they would attach a plethysmograph, which measures an erection. So when they would put it on the penis and then show these nude photos, and when the man started to get erect, then they would eject an emetic drug into a heparin lock, an IV into your arm that would make you throw up. And so that's what they were doing with the men on campus in 76.
Okay, so
Legal? Yeah.
I think it was legal.
When you enroll at BYU, I mean,
You have no more rights.
you have
No, but
you have to literally sign away your rights.
This was before the Belmont report, and before there were psychological standards for university research for ethical. There were no universal ethical standards for university researchers, so.
They could barge their way into your apartment if somebody told on you. I know of a guy, not saying anything, who's a fourth-year law student, who was also dabbled in dance, and he was somebody, no. The BYU security, whatever they're called, came in and barged their way into his apartment. He was in bed with his boyfriend, and that was the end of that. And he was a fourth-year law student. They took everything away. They wiped everything as if he had never gone to college. And I heard that he came to the U,
Had to start all over. again.
had to start all over, came to the U, got his, passed the bar, became an attorney and sued the school. But because he never went there, you can't get any information about him. You know, he just disappeared.
Loreen, back to your experience, which is horrific. I went through hypnotherapy, aversive therapy at the U of U on campus.
Didn't work, did it?
No, it screwed me up a lot. How was it really horrific for you, or is there long-term?
I think I'm pretty lucky that there haven't been too many long-term effects from that.
Did they ever show you men?
They didn't show me men.
I'm thinking
Because
maybe a picture of a man and then maybe some candy or something that. Positive reinforcement.
No. The thing is, I just want to say before I answer that question, you were saying like they gave it to you in your arm to make you throw up, and like I kind of feel like they didn't even know what they were doing. Like this is like, my bishop tells the stake president and he just decides to take care of it. I don't know, and he gets one of his cronies to, go down there, and I don't even think this guy was a counselor. He could not have been a counselor because he didn't act like one. It was just like, let's get this over, and then.
In my history career since the 80s, where I've interviewed and talked with a lot of LGBT LDS folks, I know of 50 or 60 men who went through aversion therapy in Provo, maybe not on campus, but through the school. You're the second woman that I know of that maybe did it.
Any other
So they had the men down, is what they knew what they were doing with the guys. It was real well thought out.
Right.
Sexism.
Right.
What do women do? What do women want? We don't know. Let's show her really awful naked photos and have her puke in the bucket. It sounds really Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, it does.
Horrifically.
Right. But
how many sessions did you have to go to, Loreen?
I think I went to 3 or 4, and then I just said, I think I like men.
I love it.
And they were like, right on.
Loreen, a question.
Yeah.
What support did you have for any of this? Anyone? Did you have anyone that was there with you or support you?
No, and I didn't even tell the girl that I was with. I didn't even tell her.
So you were alone in it all.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was. Yeah.
When did you first talk about it? Years
Oh
later?
my gosh, it was many years later. I think my wife is the first person I told, and probably not right away. Because this is what I did.
Really?
I said, I think I'm not gay. And so, no, I didn't even use the word gay, but I just said, I think this is working, and I want to go out and try and meet some men, and I teach school in Sandy, so I'm gonna move. And I did. I left the area and I moved up to Sandy. But in reality, because I did want to be the good Mormon girl. And so I like to say that I packed it up in a little tiny box and I put it way deep down inside of me. And I just tried to do what I was supposed to do. And so I tried to date men. I honestly, in college, this girlfriend of mine and I, we would say, we're just doing this until, you know, our missionary comes along and then we'll get married and have 12 kids and, you know. So that was kind of my mindset, was like, if the right guy comes along, it's all going to change for me. And so I never really dated, though. I think we put off the whatever, the blockers that said we're not interested in boys, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I didn't hardly ever go out on any dates. But then when I was in Salt Lake, I, dated a few guys, and then I met my husband through a dating, so I don't even know, is it LDS singles dating service? Of course, this is not before computers, but before, personal computers. And so they had a file folder, and you'd fill out all these pages and pages and pages of information. And then you had a file, and then you could go in and you could sit they had little rooms. You could go in and sit, and you go through people's files, and you say, I'm interested in this for the women. I'm interested in this guy. And then they would call the guy in. And then if he agrees, or vice versa, if the guy picks first and the girl goes in, and then if you both agreed, then they give the guy the phone number, and he calls the girl and asks her out on a date. So that's how I met my husband. And I really wanted to be married and just to have a family and just be a good Mormon family, and I tried hard, and my husband and we lasted 3.5 years. To now we're very, very good friends. And I got a daughter in the deal, because he was a widow, and his daughter, who is my daughter now, Julie, she was 5. And so I had her to 9 until she was 9. And then I had my son during the time that we were married, our son. And let me get my train of thought back. So we were, things just didn't work out, but it really had nothing to do with or at least it didn't have a lot to do with my being gay. Perhaps, there are some things there, but on the Kinsey scale, I'm not clear over on the gay edge, probably because I was able to be married to a man. But anyway, we got divorced, and then I met my wife not too long after that. But I wasn't able to see my daughter until she was 18. But I did have my son with me. So
did the confession follow you? Like, did you have Bishop following up on your gayness?
No, I didn't.
It just she's cured.
I thought that I would, but no, I didn't.
So I just have a question.
Yeah.
Just being a mom of daughter who is gay as early as 6th grade. When did you share with your family, like, through this process?
Ooh, I didn't share with anyone until I met Arlene, and I kept it a big secret. I didn't tell anyone. Probably for many months after I met her. I was seeing her, and I was very closeted.
Meaning, like, after you were married?
No, well, we weren't married until 2013.
Well, after your husband. You kept it quiet until even.
What happened at BYU at U? I never talked about that until probably I'm sure I told Arlene, so somewhere after 1993, but this happened in 1979, probably 1980. So,
We have some chat questions as well.
okay.
If now's a good time, Connell.
Yeah, absolutely.
The questions, I'll kind of clump two of them together. What was your safe space while attending BYU for both of you? Was there some sort of secret club that existed back then for LGBTQ persons? And then there's another question, but I can save it if you want to share more about that. I know I'm really interested about the house by Utah Lake of the 5K guys. How did you guys find each other? But any sort of safe space on campus. Okay.
And when you were there, it was down by Utah Lake, because
It was a big house and.
when I was there, I found out later when I was there that was, I mean, in the bushes down by Utah Lake. That was the place.
That was our backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the place that's where the place where the men would go.
But
Wow.
the thing about, and I don't really know about BYU now, I only know what I read in papers and articles and things.
Mhm.
But back then, unless you got caught
Mhm.
or unless you were turned in, nobody was really looking. Okay, I mean, in the performing areas, they wanted to keep their guys,
Mhm.
and nobody really cared, or if they did care, it wasn't discussed because, there were six dancers, and two of them were straightish, and the rest of us were just gay. But well, who knows? I mean,
Did the house like
somebody
have
who
a
wears
name?
tights and leotards and spends half their day staring at themselves in a mirror. I mean, that's not straight. But it just, I don't even remember. I mean, I remember the first term, but then after that, when I was getting into gay life in Provo and in Salt Lake, nobody really cared. And if teachers knew, they weren't going to turn,
Mm.
hell, you were protected, I guess. And at the time, it helped. Can I say that? The time it helped that the head of the department was a well-known and very active lesbian.
Oh,
And
Leona.
yeah,
Leona Holbrook, yeah.
and so it was just an understanding that, now if I'd been, I think in other professions, they might have looked, but nobody looked.
So just as an explanation, Leona Holbrook was the head of the women's physical education department. And all dance programs were under women's PE. So
and she was
out.
She was out. I mean, she was known, and that kind of information shouldn't be known by everybody.
She was very butch.
Yeah.
She was very butch.
She was a former Olympic athlete, 36.
Oh, I don't know that she performed in the Olympics. That's not something I've
I
read.
think
She was
the Olympic committees.
She was the first woman on the U.S. Olympic Committee, but
No, but she was also in.
I didn't know she was.
Is that what you said?
No.
I was just saying the committee. I think that she was part of one of the first women's Olympic committees and women's organized sports programs in like nationwide. She was involved in that type of activity.
But it was very known.
Yeah.
And
it was an open secret.
And she retired, right?
Yeah. She kept teaching until like 3 years before she died in the mid-80s. But so you didn't know about Leona Holbrook and
No, I would have loved to have known that there was some kind of a network, but there was
I don't think she was part of a network because she, had too much to lose.
Well, yeah.
But everybody seemed to know about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that we had that, but.
So the other question?
So the other question from Zoom is, what do you think about the Y being painted on the hill, the rainbow Y on campus? and the support LGBTQ persons receive now from other students and some teachers.
I think it's great.
I only know what I've read,
Yeah.
but the night they lit up the Y in the gay colors, that didn't last through the night, did it?
No.
I mean, it was immediately shut down, but there are still photographs
Mhm.
of the Y with,
Mhm.
and
And I think that, don't they still try to
They did it
go there
twice.
and do that? Yeah.
They did it twice.
Yeah, they've
but
got it all
it's-
gated off now. and
Yeah, they've
stuff,
made
but
it illegal, although I don't think technically it can be. I think it's
Yeah.
public property or
trespass.
something.
no, it's owned by the Y. I mean, it's owned by BYU.
Well, the LDS Church got, after that happened, the LDS Church got the Utah representative in Congress to sponsor legislation forcing the Forest Service to sell the land where the Y is to the church.
Right.
Then
Ah.
the church bought it, and then they outlawed
Church, not the university.
protests.
Yeah.
Well, same thing. right?
Yeah,
Right.
but it, yeah,
Wow.
so it's owned, so they really can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's illegal to limit.
So
Yeah, heaven forbid.
tell me your worst memory of being at BYU.
Besides throwing up in a bucket.
Mhm.
Okay, that's
That's probably my worst
that's-
memory. But just feeling like we were being hunted down by certain people that were trying to catch
Yeah,
us. Yeah.
that's gross.
Yeah.
Dale?
I guess that's,
Dale, what's your worst memory?
I didn't have it.
You don't have any memories of BYU?
No, I don't have any bad memories.
Oh, okay.
I knew when I decided not to return, I was just afraid of losing everything and having to start over. And so I left and went to Washington and finished college, but nothing bad really happened.
So what was your favorite? Tell me a favorite memory of BYU. What was something really good that happened there? Besides
Having
that.
rehearsal on Sunday mornings,
Ooh.
because I thought that was so good, because we could have, well, we didn't have Alex. Sandy Allen was a little bit stricter, but we had modern dance rehearsals on Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon,
Instead of
family
church.
home evening. It was, you never had to do any of that because I'm sorry, I can't, I rehearsal. And nobody cared. And so
Yeah.
it was kind of all good because what society expected of you, especially in small town in the South, what society expected of you was not that much different than what BYU, what you were allowed to do. And so I see a lot of heads going out. It really, now it's a big deal, but then it was, BYU was, and the parts I was in was just kind of like the other two universities I had attended. And church membership didn't matter, awards and stuff didn't matter. As long as you were at rehearsal or performing.
Loreen, what's one of your favorite memories of BYU?
I loved going to college. I just loved it. I loved, I didn't grow up with any siblings, so I loved living with a bunch of other girls. It was like having sisters, and I just felt free being there. I don't know. I love I just love
life.
Yes, the collegiate life. Yeah, I did.
That's awesome.
I did really love it. Yeah.
Well, I want to acknowledge SOAP, Seniors Out and Proud, and Deb Hall. Thank you.
The 4 ticket?
Well,
Oh.
first of all, thank you for co-sponsoring this evening and helping with an honorarium, because we'd like to pay the people that come and speak to us. Although we can't afford much, but a little bit, so thank you for that. But also you brought us together unknowingly. So had free tickets to go to the Lady Bunny
Show.
show
Yeah.
at a bar downtown. And so Dale and I got tickets and we went in and we were sitting in the old Fogey Center section. And We sat next
So
to
you don't have-
Loreen.
First row. she
Yeah,
did.
no, so you didn't have to go up the stairs.
And Loreen and her date for that evening was sitting there too. And we just started chatting. And all of a sudden they both realized, oh, they went to BYU around the same time. And they were just yakking away. And Judy Garland came to me in a vision and said, you need to have these two people come in.
Remember that lady that was sitting behind us that was just like so into the whole conversation? We didn't even know who she
There's
was.
this young woman was just like, tell me everything. She just wanted to hear all about being gay at BYU in the 70s, and she was fascinated.
And so Lady Bunny indirectly brought us together.
And Deb Hall.
And
Well,
Deb-
in the show and all that was, we were talking while the show was going on, but you know, Deb got us there. Lady Bunny was the one who kept us there. That was a show.
And it was hysterical. She's so raunchy, so funny, really talented.
it's a drag show. But, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she's.
The younger people know who Lady Bunny is.
Oh, do they? Oh, sorry.
Are there any more questions? Bill, you look like you have a question on your mind.
Just, this is from the 70s. Don't you have information from the 60s?
Well,
They're all dead.
there's a little bit, but so
I was wrong.
That was joking. That was a joke.
I know in the 40s there was kind of a gay social network that was there that Earl Clofid
No,
was a
but
part of. In the
the,
60s, there was a purge in
Purge.
1968, or the witch hunt of 68, or the purge.
65.
Oh, I only know of 68.
There
And then
were 14
75.
of us in folk dancers
Oh,
picked out in 1965, and I wasn't a member of the church at the time.
sounds like we need to interview you. Because I only know of 68, the big purge of 68. And that's, so Ernest Wilkinson set up this structure of being able to communicate with the church and church leaders, and with BYU and BYU security and the BYU Counseling Center. He's the one who kind of institutionalized that whole thing. And it kind of, after the big purge of 68, it kind of died down. And but then a whole new crop of students show up. So the purge of 75 started in January of 75, and you had just left, hadn't you? Yeah. And you were just getting there, or
It was just getting there, but I never knew about it.
well, it mainly,
Yeah,
sex,
because I'm a girl.
yeah, sexism.
And you
They were
didn't take
focusing-
heat.
And I didn't take me unless they forced me.
if they found you on the softball diamond,
Yeah.
who knows?
That's what would have happened.
Anyway,
Uh,
thank you very much, everyone, for coming this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've loved having you here in Mildred Berryman's living room to join our intimate conversation. Randy, come on over.
Thank you so much for coming.